How do you think an appellate court is going to look at all of this, all these things that they're bringing to the attention now, all these missteps? Are we very much looking at a very high likelihood of another trial for Richard Allen? And then I got to follow up on that one after.
I don't know, Tony. I say that because it depends on one of the biggest things is who is the quality of the appellate attorney.
Hmm.
They've petitioned for one, they're going to get one, but it's going to be a public defender appellate attorney.
Hmm.
And not that they're saying there's anything wrong with that because they typically are the most experienced. I tell you, if I were ever in trouble, I would probably want a public defender
Hmm.
because they're so experienced. But having said that, it just is really going to depend on that, I think, in large part. We this is one of the rarest cases I've ever seen because you had a trial judge, Judge Gold, remove the attorneys for the defendant and get overturned
Hmm.
by the Supreme or by the Indiana Supreme Court right before
Yeah.
trial. That was critical. That showed you, even though they said it quite nicely, that he was being denied his Sixth Amendment right to counsel, and that was such a blow. I think, all based on the fact that crime scene photos were released. The defense is the last people normally that want any crime scene photos out there.
Hmm.
Even in court, the prosecutor is always the one that wants to get crime scene photos in the face of the jury, and the defense is always the one saying, "No, it's too prejudicial." When they see what happened to these girls, they're going to definitely want to convict our man.
Hmm.
And so why in the world would the defense have been motivated? And we know that Rossi, it wasn't even his office. He
Hmm.
wasn't anywhere around this file. And the person who took them pled guilty, signed an affidavit, and was charged and convicted for the crime
Hmm.
of taking these photos, releasing them, and then that person released them, and then they got in the hands of creators who then, turned them over. But for the most part, um, they're still floating around out there. So obviously, everybody
Yeah.
who got them did not turn them over. But my point is on this is even the Supreme Court has overruled her. So I just think there's some glaring issues, and I'm hopeful it's just fair.
Yeah. That's, I think, what everybody wants. I still come from the same camp too. Of I don't know if he's guilty, but it certainly wasn't a fair and just trial. It was not how we do trials in this country. I mean, there's so many things that are being argued here with the defense of the prosecutorial misconduct and fixing these errors and such that are just fact. It's not even like up for debate. Like, how do you interpret how this happened? This is what happened. He was denied this. They didn't do that. They took his attorneys away here. They erased evidence over there. Some of their testimony made little to no sense in terms of a timeline. And on that, the white van, the defense alleging that the prosecution presented or failed to correct the false testimony regarding the white van in this case that was linked to the crime. And if that could be proven, it could undermine the credibility of the prosecution and effectively impact the verdict. How do you think that will score in terms of an appellate court where their van timeline was kind of all over the place?
Yeah, it was wonky. It was wonky from the beginning, and a lot of that information regarding that van was all over social media. I've always said that,
Hmm.
and but I think it is important to remember that we're not even at the appellate
No,
stage.
we're
This is
not.
just before Judge Goal. Just for clarity, that to vacate the verdict, basically the defense, and this is just routine, is saying, listen, look at all of these issues. You need to vacate. The chances of that happening, I would bet everything I own
Yeah.
that that will never, ever happen. There is no way that she's going to vacate anything. The only chance for Richard Allen is years and years down the line, if an appeal is brought and accepted. And I think it could be. Tony, did you get a chance to listen to one of the jurors who talked about the fact that really the tipping point, and I think they deliberated, I want to say 5 days,
Hmm.
I believe,
It was around there.
was
Yeah.
right around there. It wasn't quick. It wasn't in hours
No.
like you see oftentimes. And and it was the confessions. You know, everything else they seemed to, at least this juror, that's what this juror said.
Hmm.
And and when you look at the fact, and you and I have talked about this so often, that he was in a maximum security prison, locked up for 23 hours, and this is what the one of the issues they're saying, that there wasn't even an attorney present to represent him when those decisions were made.
Yeah.
Later, obviously, they came back and the judge said motion denied, motion denied, motion denied. So I'm not sure it's going to have legs because it was later argued by
Sure.
his attorneys they shouldn't be there. But that is the genesis, I believe, of those confessions. In other words, right now, if you put Brian Koberger, accused of the Idaho murders, in a maximum security for 23 hours, would he go crazy?
Yeah, I
What
think
would he
anybody
say?
would. Anybody. You could
Ah,
put somebody who you know was not involved in a crime and leave them in maximum security for about a year and go and see what person you have once you take him out of that cage and what they're going to say. It might be kind of crazy.
yeah. I mean, I've always said compare how the written confession that he gave to how he wrote, it was in writing, right? To
Yeah.
how he wrote when he was being interrogated and interviewed when he wasn't in custody. I mean, he's extremely, he wrote well.
Hmm.
He made his points. It was very cohesive to understand. That gibberish
Yeah.
that was put forth was gibberish. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say we saw the exact exhibit, but there was a reporter that wrote it exactly as they saw it.
Hmm.
Meandering words and up in the right hand words all over, and how it was. I mean, it looks like somebody under the influence, and we know he was medicated, and he was highly medicated with psychotropic type drugs to sedate him and things. And I just, I will never understand the genesis of how he was ever allowed to be in those conditions
Yeah.
and the result. I'll never be able to understand that because there's no other case like that.
No, no. I mean, that in itself was where we were saying, okay, he gets a get a new trial free card with that. And the fact that yes, he was take if you take the just the psychological damage that you're going to do to somebody by putting them into a confined space like that, which people like to pretend, oh, nothing happens. He's just not that strong. No, it does damage. But you have the medicated end of this as well, too. You can't sign legal documents if you are under the influence of some sort of psychotropic medication. They're going to say, not valid. But he can make meandering statements of, I killed them. Probably just his mind is saying, I'll say anything to get the hell out of here at this point. And they're saying, that's totally valid. It's not going to be valid if he wants to sign over here to buy a Buick, but it's totally valid if he signs, if he makes these statements and doesn't have to sign anything. We're just going to say it's all true. It works. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I will say though, the jury did get to know at least some of the background, but remember, a lot of that was not allowed to come forward.
Yeah.
A lot of information surrounding the conditions and other things. Yeah, but they at least got to look at the, confessions. And I think the bottom line is what most people think is, who in the world, if they were innocent, would make all these confessions? But as I said, the confessions needed to have something that no one knew,
Hmm.
something that wasn't in the public, and they didn't, uh, other than this piece about the van. But again, that was in the public, and he got all discovery.
Yeah. He had knowledge of it. It wasn't like it was some hidden thing that he's throwing into the conversation that no one else would know about. Yeah, it's fascinating. We're at the very beginning process of this part of it, and I think we'll probably be talking about this for years. Just so frustrating. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.